Vandross is a singer that I grew up listening to, and Never Too Much was the song that just reminded me of parties when I was a kid. Growing up, my mum and dad would put that 80s Soul Weekender, Soul Funk CD on, and I literally would just dance the whole night.
Right.
And it would just be like everything, you know, from Luther Vandross to the Funkadelics to James Brown, and that song just was always something that I loved to do, so I'm covering it on my tour.
That was the kind of music you had playing around the house? Your folks
soul funk, soul. It was a very old school vibe in my mum and dad's house. My dad loves that kind of music, so it's definitely something that's still with me now.
But it never really dates, does it?
No, it's one of those songs that classic, like do 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 do, and you're just like yes, and everyone gets up whether they're like 12 or 80, which is good.
You do that in the show?
Yeah, it's my first cover that I'm doing in the show. Yeah, I'm excited for my tour.
Do you find your audience, they know it or they've heard of it?
I don't know if they don't, they should, and if they do, they'll enjoy it.
You're educating them.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Next one is All Saints and Never Ever.
Never Ever. This song, I remember just wanting to learn the talking bit at the beginning, and I always remember thinking like the English accent just doesn't sound cool, doing that kind of thing. And I think this was the first band that I was obsessed with as I got older. Spice Girls was a thing that you kind of bought the pencil case and you went to see the film 18 times. But
you had to be a bit younger for that. Really.
Yeah, All Saints was the kind of when I got a little bit older and I wanted to be Mel so bad. And I just loved their music. The song, so amazing. Evan Bogart wrote it, and I remember sitting with him in the studio and he actually told me that this started out as a rap and then they made it into a song. And it's one of my favourites of hers. I think she's probably been one of my biggest inspirations as an artist over the last 10 years. Like, her career's been consistent. She's been a role model. Her music's always amazing. Every album gets better with time. And I just think this song has always been one that I wish that I'd written and sung.
She always strikes me as being somebody that's actually going to go on to do something probably quite important in her life. Do you think that's...
Yeah, I definitely think that she's one of those people that was put on this earth to do more than just sing.
She'll probably end up president of the United States.
Probably, yeah. I think now her and Jay-Z are having a baby, I think they can take over the world.
Probably. So she may end up Prime Minister one day.
You never know. You never know.
I would think it would happen. Coldplay and Yellow. Yes,
Coldplay, one of the first bands that I was obsessed with. I love his voice, and Yellow always stands out for me. It sounds very weird, but I had an MRI scan on my leg, and it was the song that stopped me from having a panic attack. I hate having MRI scans. It wasn't that long ago, but it was such a crucial point, and music is something that I always associate times in my life with. And Yellow, I've always loved Coldplay, but that song has always been something that I put on if I need to calm myself down. So it just stuck with me, and I think Coldplay have always been one of my favourites, the way they team up with different genres of music, and I just think his tone is so good.
You talk about obsessions in music, and of course you mentioned the MRI scan. You've had a lot of health issues over the years. Has music played a really important part in getting you through that?
Definitely. When I was younger, when I was in hospital, my mum would always play me music like Tracy Chapman, Jonah Matradin, to like keep me calm. And my little Discman player, my little Blue with my little headphones would be my lifesaver thing, that when I couldn't sleep, music was the thing that settled me. And I think that because I associated my mum and dad playing me music to make me feel better, as soon as I wanted to do music, I wanted to write songs to make people feel better. And I think that's why I kind of gravitate towards very emotional music.
And the making of music now, does that provide the same function as listening to it did?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of emotional outlet for me. If I'm angry, I'll write a song and I'll sing about being angry, and then it's out of my system, but it lasts forever. So I can always go back and listen to it if I ever need it. It's almost like 3 minutes of therapy. And that's how I kind of create music. Music is just such a lifesaver for me.
And this Yellow does it for you?
Yes, definitely. I was in a choir when I was younger, Carmel Thomas Youth Singers. We used to sing this in like 16-part harmony. It was literally epic. And I used to love it. And then I went to see the show, and I loved Elton John playing it on the piano. And it was just one of those songs that just was that song that I went to. It was like my go-to song as a kid. Like if I ever had a song in my head, it was always Can You Feel the Love Tonight? So I think it just reminds me of being young and being in a choir, which I always loved.
Were you the front voice in the choir?
Sometimes. I'd sometimes get a solo. I'd do Whistle Down the Wind or on my own, but not always. I kind of liked being in the background as well as being in the forefront. But Carmel, who's the choir's head honcho, she gave me my first chance to have my solo. So yeah, maybe I owe this all to her.
Well, Whistle Down the Wind you mentioned, weren't you in the show?
I was in the show, I auditioned when I was 9, and Angela Webber cast me as Brat, which was quite suited to me when I was 9. And I was in it for 2 years, and I fell off the stage.
Yeah, that got you a nickname, didn't it?
Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Because I fell into the orchestra pit.
Yeah, nice.
So instead of Brad Pitt, it was Brad Pitt. Yeah, that was ongoing.
Funny now.
Yeah, exactly. At the time, it was completely humiliating, but everything happens for a reason.
Indeed. Next, you've gone for Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston, one of my all-time idols. I Will Always Love You was the song that wherever I was in the car or we was at a caravan park on holiday and there was someone singing it in the entertainment section, I literally was obsessed with the song and her. And I remember seeing that video of the close-up of her face and was just like, I want to be her. And I Will Always Love You is just that song that as soon as my mum and dad allowed me to sing lyrics like that, when I was 16, 17, that was the first song that I always wanted to sing and learn. And Whitney's tone is just untouchable. Like, no one sings like her.
Well, you mentioned your mum and dad allowing you to sing. Were they quite protective of what you could do?
I mean, my mum and dad wouldn't let me sing Torn because it had the word naked in it. And I actually think I'm so thankful for that because I think it allowed me to be young. You know, sometimes I go on YouTube and even me now, I think, oh gosh, people sing and do it like a dude and they're like 5. It is very strange. And I do think that sometimes parents allow their kids to listen to music they probably shouldn't. And when I was younger, I was glad that my mum and dad had that kind of, you know, watershed on what I was allowed to listen to and what I wasn't, because it made me realise that as I got older, you know, it was those steps of learning about what I could sing about and pushing the boundaries. And you know, even now my mum goes, do you have to swear? And I'm like, Mum, it could be a lot worse, you know, I could swear every other word. But I don't, and if I do, it's always because I feel like it needs it. But she understands, so yeah, it's fine now. I love Oasis. I just had an obsession with them. My brother-in-law has literally been obsessed with Oasis ever since I can remember, and he's been like my big brother, and I feel like he's the one that's educated me on bands like Oasis and Blur and like The Muse and just people that I probably wouldn't have listened to because I did musical theatre. And Don't Look Back in Anger has always been a song that I'd love to cover. I haven't done it yet, but I just love going into different genres that are totally different to how my voice is. So I think I owe it to him that he kind of always educated me on that music, and I've always wanted a big brother, so my brother-in-laws are amazing and they always teach me about music that I don't always listen to.
But this, I think, is their best song.
Definitely one of their best songs for me.
Tracy Chapman next. Fast Car.
Chapman, Fast Car. This song reminds me of my mum singing along to it in the car with her cute little voice that's so quiet. Just always a CD that she'd always play when we were younger. And this song kind of just became almost like a film. Every time it came on, I'd pretend I was in a film. Like, you know, when you're sitting in the back of the car, okay, people go with me on this. Don't think I'm a weirdo. Because I know everybody does it.
Yeah,
have you done it?
Road films.
Yeah, and you pretend, you pretend there's a camera by the window. I always do it. Anyway, I'm happy to admit that I do. And this was always that song. Like, it would come on, and the guitar lick would come at the beginning, and my mum would start singing along, and I'd pretend there was a camera, and I was doing a video. And it's just such a pure song, stripped down. I think it was one of the songs that made me really realise that music didn't always have to be overly produced. It could always be stripped back and still be as wonderful. Craig David, 7 Days. This album was the lick back in the day, and I remember literally having this on repeat, and my dad bought me this album and I was obsessed with it. And 7 Days was just that song. Met this girl on Monday, took her for a drink on Tuesday. And it was just the album that you had to have if you're that generation, my age. I was probably, 15, 16. And I just loved it. It was just that English kind of R&B, and that kind of sound was coming in, and lots of riffs and tricks. And I think I was just obsessed with Craig David.
And you've come to this English point a couple of times.
Yeah.
You don't have to sing in American or be Americanese in order to work in rock music.
No. I just think I'm really proud to be British. So I think I've always wanted to be someone that supports British music. It's funny because you'll kind of go to America and there's not many British artists are played there. But here, American music is kind of seen as better and more expensive. But it's, I think, some of the biggest, most amazing names in music are English. And I kind of just want to be an ambassador for that. And I think that it's good for me to support English music.
Well said. Michael Jackson is last with Billie Jean.
Can't beat Michael Jackson. Billie Jean, like, everyone used to mimic his dance moves. You know, I've always said with Michael Jackson, the one thing that I love about him is that being a celebrity, whatever you go through, as long as you make amazing music, when you pass, that's what should live on. And I think that's why I'm so kind of in awe of him, that he had such an amazing career, that a lot of it was about his personal life. But, you know, sadly, when he passed away, it was his music that lived on. And I think that's an amazing thing. And Billie Jean, I think that's what's amazing. If you ask a 4-year-old who Michael Jackson is, they know. Do you know what I mean? And that's the wonderful thing about him, that they may not have even been around when he released an album, but they know who he is because his music just bled through to so many different people. And he's always going to be the king of pop to me.
True, absolutely true. You've had a great deal of success yourself.
Yeah.
Big sellout tour, but you had a lot of setbacks on the way.
Oh, definitely.
So, you know, you're pretty grounded.
You have to be. I get asked a lot, you know, why didn't you go on X Factor and why didn't you do that and why didn't you do that? And I say, well, I think it's wonderful, but I do think that it can really cloud the understanding of what you need to be and who you need to be to survive in this industry. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, you just appeared out of nowhere. No, I was signed for 7 years. There was many points when I was like, you know what, this is tough. Like, I can't give my mum and dad back money and I can't even afford to pay for petrol to get to the gig. But you know what? You do it because you love it and you do it for the music and everything else falls into place as a bonus. And I'm glad that I stuck through because I didn't give up because I had 100 fans. And those 100 people meant the most to me, and my mum and dad brought me up better than to give up. I'm a fighter, and even with some of the setbacks that I've had while I've been in the public eye, you know, breaking my foot, a lot of people I think would presume that I would have disappeared and not done any shows, but you can't sit in your own pity, you know, that's not going to get you any better. You have to just get on with it and go, I'm 23, I'm not going to waste this year feeling sorry for myself. And I think that it's important to have setbacks. Without them, you kind of just live in a bubble and you think that everything's perfect, and it's not. And I think it makes you appreciate the good moments so much more, which is important.
It so is.
Yeah.
And you're well on your way to becoming a role model yourself.
Fingers crossed, yeah, I hope so.
Great stuff.
I hope so.
Jessie, great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Definitely.